The silent planet. The discovery. Captain Zareth had explored 2,000 worlds in his career, but none had ever given him this feeling. Earth hung in the viewport like a blue-green jewel, clouds swirling across continents that matched the ancient star charts perfectly. It was beautiful. It was lifeless. And it was completely intact. Sensors confirm atmospheric composition, his science officer reported, her tentacles dancing across the control panel. Oxygen, nitrogen, trace gases. All within habitable parameters. Temperature optimal. Water abundant. Captain, this planet should be teeming with life. But it wasn't. The orbital scans showed empty cities, silent forests, abandoned structures that stretched across every continent. No electromagnetic emissions. No heat signatures. No movement. Earth was a museum frozen in time, perfectly preserved but completely empty. How long? Zareth asked quietly. Based on decay rates and geological surveys, approximately 5,000 years since the last human activity. 5,000 years. The Explorers Guild had been searching for humanity's homeworld for 3 centuries, following scattered records and half-remembered coordinates passed down through galactic trade networks. Humans were legendary, brilliant engineers, fierce warriors, natural diplomats who had somehow vanished from galactic civilization without explanation. Some said they'd been destroyed by war. Others claimed disease had wiped them out. A few whispered that humans had simply decided the galaxy wasn't worth their time and gone home to die in peace. But this wasn't destruction. This was evacuation. The investigation begins. Zareth assembled his landing team carefully. Dr. Mira, the xenoarchaeologist. Lieutenant Korm, security chief. Ensign Pella, communications specialist. And himself, because some discoveries demanded a captain's presence. The shuttle descended through atmosphere that hadn't been disturbed by artificial flight in millennia. They landed in what the ancient records called New York, a massive city of towering structures that scraped the sky. The buildings stood intact, glass unbroken, streets clear of debris. It looked like everyone had simply walked away yesterday. Energy readings, Korm announced, his weapon scanning the surroundings. Faint but present. Some kind of power grid still functioning underground. After 5,000 years? Myra's voice carried disbelief. That's impossible. No civilization builds technology that durable. Humans did, Zareth said, remembering the stories. Human ships that lasted centuries. Human tools that never broke. Human architecture that defied time itself. They built everything to last. The team moved deeper into the city, their footsteps echoing through empty streets. Pella stopped at a public terminal, its screen dark but intact. She connected her scanner, trying to access whatever data might remain. Got something, she said excitedly. Archives. Massive data storage, still functional. Captain, these are personal logs. Billions of them. Every human who lived here recorded their thoughts, their lives, their. The terminal blazed to life. The message. A holographic figure appeared above the console. Human, male, wearing a simple uniform. His face was kind but tired, lined with the weight of impossible decisions. If you're seeing this, the hologram said in perfect galactic standard, then you've found Earth. Welcome. I'm sorry we're not here to greet you properly. Zareth's breath caught. This was a recording, but it felt alive, personal, meant for this exact moment. My name is Dr. Marcus Chen, and I'm the last human to leave Earth. By the time you hear this, we've been gone for thousands of years. You're probably wondering what happened to us. Why we left. Where we went. The hologram gestured, and new images appeared. Humans working, building, laughing. A civilization at its peak. 5,000 years ago, we made a discovery. Something in deep space, beyond the galactic rim. A signal, a pattern, a truth about the universe that changed everything we thought we knew. The truth about humanity. We learned, Marcus continued, that conscious life, all of it, every species including yours, was seeded intentionally. The galaxy is a garden. And gardens have gardeners. Zarath felt his scales prickle. Every civilization had myths about ancient precursors, but they were just stories. The precursors didn't die out. They transcended. Became something beyond physical existence. And they left instructions, buried in quantum patterns throughout space, waiting for species advanced enough to find them. The hologram's expression grew serious. Humans found those instructions. We learned how to transcend, how to evolve beyond matter and energy, how to become something more than flesh and bone. Mira gasped. They ascended. But here's the thing, Marcus said. Transcendence is a choice. Not everyone was ready. Not everyone wanted it. So we built a test. The test. New images appeared. Massive structures under construction. Ships of incredible size. Technology that made Zarath's advanced vessel look like a child's toy. We left Earth intact as a message. We scattered our technology across the galaxy. We created challenges, mysteries, tests of character disguised as archaeological discoveries. Every species that reaches for the stars eventually finds evidence of humanity. And how they respond to that evidence determines their fate. Zarath's mind raced. The human artifacts his species had found. The technology they'd reverse-engineered. The moral debates about whether to share it or hoard it. It was all intentional. Some species, Marcus said sadly, find our weapons and use them to conquer. Some find our science and use it to exploit. These species fail the test. They never hear from us again. But others, his expression brightened, find our gifts and share them. Use them to help, to heal, to unite. These species pass. These species get to learn the truth. The hologram looked directly at Zarath. Captain Zarath of the Explorers Guild, your species has passed. Over 3 centuries, you've found 47 human artifacts. You've shared every one of them freely. You've used our technology to explore, not to conquer. You've proven that you understand what civilization really means. The invitation. Humans didn't abandon the galaxy, Marcus said. We're still here. We've been watching. Waiting. Testing. Making sure that when we reveal ourselves, we're revealing ourselves to species worthy of the truth. The hologram raised his hand, and reality itself seemed to ripple. The empty city around them began to change. Colors shifted. Light bent. Space folded in ways that hurt to perceive. We exist in dimensions you're only beginning to understand. But we haven't forgotten where we came from. We haven't forgotten why physical existence matters. Zarath felt something building in the air. Energy. Presence. The weight of attention from beings beyond his comprehension. You found Earth, Marcus said. You've proven yourselves. Now comes the real choice. You can leave, take your discoveries home, continue existing as you always have. Or you can stay. Learn. Let us teach you what lies beyond the limits you've accepted as absolute. The hologram began to fade. We've been waiting 5,000 years for someone to pass the test. We're glad it was you. The next stage begins whenever you're ready. The decision. The message ended. The terminal went dark. But the city wasn't empty anymore. Zarath could feel them, humans, transcended but present, watching with patient interest. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Lieutenant Corm's weapon hung uselessly at his side. What did you do when the greatest mystery in the galaxy revealed itself? When the test givers offered to become teachers? Sir? Mira whispered. What do we do? Zarath looked up at the sky, seeing it differently now. Seeing the layers beyond layers, the dimensions beyond dimensions, the truth that humans had discovered and chosen to share rather than hoard. We stay, he said firmly. We learn. We become worthy of what they're offering. Beyond the veil. The first lesson. The change happened gradually at first. Zareth and his crew remained in New York, but the city began to reveal itself. What had appeared empty was actually full of humans who existed slightly out of phase with normal reality. They walked through walls, conversed in languages that bypassed sound entirely, and observed the universe through senses the crew couldn't begin to name. Dr. Marcus Chin appeared again, but this time not as a hologram. He stood before them as a figure of pure coherent energy wearing the memory of his old form like comfortable clothes. The first thing you need to understand, Marcus said, his voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears, is that matter is a choice. Consciousness doesn't require flesh. You're not bodies that happen to be aware. You're awareness choosing to inhabit bodies. Ensign Pella's tentacles trembled. How is that possible? We're biological organisms. Chemistry, physics, evolution are all true, Marcus agreed. But incomplete. Evolution didn't create consciousness. It created vessels complex enough to anchor it. The difference matters. He gestured, and the world shifted. Suddenly Zareth could see energy flows he'd never perceived before. The life force of his crew members glowing like stars. The quantum foam of reality bubbling beneath the surface of space. The vast web of consciousness that connected every thinking being in the galaxy. You're already perceiving the first layer, Marcus said with approval. Your brain is struggling to interpret it, forcing it into familiar patterns. That's normal. Give it time. The history of transcendence. Over the following days, or was it weeks? Time felt different here. The humans taught them the truth about galactic history. Consciousness is the universe becoming aware of itself, explained Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, a physicist who had transcended 4,800 years earlier. She appeared as a woman of light, her form constantly shifting. Every sentient being is a focal point where the cosmos looks inward. The precursors discovered this first, she continued. They learned to shed their physical limitations and exist as pure awareness. But they made a mistake. They transcended too quickly, all at once, leaving no one behind to guide younger species. So they created the seeding program, Zareth said, understanding clicking into place. They spread life across the galaxy, hoping that new species would eventually join them. Exactly. But they built in a safety mechanism. A test. Because transcendence without wisdom is dangerous. The dark truth. Marcus took over the explanation, his expression growing dark. There are beings in the higher dimensions. Not all of them are friendly. Some of them feed on consciousness itself. They're drawn to species attempting transcendence like predators to prey. The precursors created the test to filter out species who would become victims or worse, species who would transcend and then become predators themselves. You need wisdom, compassion, and unity to survive in the higher dimensions. Lieutenant Korm spoke up, his warrior's instinct sharp. What happens to species that fail? Some simply never transcend. They hit a technological plateau and eventually die out. Others, Marcus paused, attempt to force transcendence without understanding it. They tear themselves apart, or attract the attention of things that consume them. And some, Sarah added quietly, pass the technological tests but fail the moral ones. They transcend with hatred in their hearts. They become the very predators we're trying to protect you from. The training. The crew began training in earnest. It wasn't like any education Zareth had ever experienced. The humans taught by showing, by allowing their students to temporarily perceive reality through transcended senses. Dr. Mira learned to read the quantum information encoded in matter itself. She could touch an ancient stone and see its entire history, every atom's journey from stellar furnaces to planetary crust to human hands. Ensign Pella discovered she could communicate directly with the ship's computer systems, understanding machine consciousness in ways that made traditional interfaces obsolete. Lieutenant Korm found something unexpected. His warrior's discipline translated perfectly to controlling his consciousness. He learned to project his awareness across vast distances, to shield his thoughts from hostile entities, to fight on battlefields that existed in pure thought. And Zareth learned to see the connections. Every being tied to every other being through webs of cause and effect. Past, present, and future bleeding together in patterns that revealed the shape of probability itself. The warning. 3 months into their training, at least, that's what their ship's chronometer claimed, Marcus called a special gathering. Every human mentor appeared, along with the crew. "You're progressing faster than we expected," Marcus said. "Fast enough that it's time you understood the stakes." He showed them images from higher dimensional space. Magnificent vistas of pure thought and energy, structures of consciousness that dwarfed galaxies. But also darkness. Vast, hungry darkness that moved with terrible purpose. "These are the Devourers," Marcus said. "Beings that failed their own transcendence and became something monstrous. They exist to consume other consciousness, growing stronger with every mind they absorb." "The galaxy's species are ripening," Sarah explained. "More civilizations are approaching transcendence now than at any point in the last million years. The Devourers know this. They're gathering." Zareth felt ice in his veins. "You're preparing us to fight." "We're preparing you to survive," Marcus corrected. "And yes, survival might require fighting. The precursors are powerful, but they're few. Humanity transcended to help them hold the line. But we need more. We need every species capable of wisdom to join us." The choice revisited. That night, Zareth gathered his crew privately. They sat in their shuttle, the only familiar space left in this transformed reality. "We could still leave," he said quietly. "Return to normal life. Report that Earth was empty. Live out our lives never knowing what we've learned here." "Could we though?" Mira asked. "Could we unsee what we've seen? Could I touch something without reading its history? Could Pella interact with computers without hearing their thoughts?" "We're already changing," Corm rumbled. "The question isn't whether to stay. It's whether we're willing to see this through to transcendence itself." Pella's tentacles curled nervously. "And bring our entire species with us. If we transcend, we'll want to share this. We'll start testing others the way humans tested us. The responsibility is exactly what our species has been building toward for centuries," Zareth interrupted. "We explore not to conquer but to understand. We seek out other species not to exploit them but to learn from them. We've been preparing for this without knowing it." He stood, decision crystallizing. "We stay. We learn. We transcend. And then we guide our people through the same journey. Because that's what humanity did for us. They didn't transcend and abandon the galaxy. They transcended and became its guardians." The revelation. When they informed Marcus of their decision, he smiled with genuine warmth. "We knew you'd choose this path. That's why your species passed the test. But there's something you should know," Sarah added. "Something we haven't told you yet." She gestured, and the world shifted again. Suddenly Zareth could see beyond Earth's atmosphere. Could see the solar system. Could see the thousands of ships hidden in quantum folds around every planet. "You're not the first species we've trained," Marcus said. "You're the 47th. For 5,000 years, we've been teaching species to transcend. Building an army of conscious beings who understand that existence is worth protecting." The scale of it staggered Zareth. 47 species, each going through what they were experiencing. Each learning to see beyond physical reality. Each preparing to fight things that existed beyond matter and energy. "The Devourers are coming," Marcus said quietly. "Not someday. Soon. Within your lifetime. The galaxy's species have reached critical mass. Too many are too close to transcendence. The predators won't wait any longer." "We're running out of time," Sarah added. "That's why we revealed ourselves to you now. Why we're accelerating training. Why we need every species we've taught to begin teaching others." The new mission. Zareth looked at his crew. They stood straighter now, their forms already beginning to shimmer slightly as they learned to exist between dimensions. They were becoming something more than they'd been. Something humanity had shown them they could be. "What do you need us to do?" he asked. "Go back," Marcus said. "Return to your people. Share what you've learned, carefully, gradually, the way we shared it with you. Start building your own testing protocols. Find other species ready for the truth. And prepare for war," Corm said. It wasn't a question. "And prepare for war," Marcus agreed. "But remember, consciousness itself is the battlefield. Ships and weapons won't matter where we're going. Only will, wisdom, and the absolute conviction that existence, all existence, is worth defending." The return. The shuttle lifted off from Earth 3 months after landing. But the crew that departed wasn't the crew that had arrived. They existed simultaneously in physical space and in the quantum realm humans had taught them to perceive. They were bridges between realities, ambassadors of a truth most species weren't ready to comprehend. As Earth shrank behind them, Zareth sent a final thought toward the humans still watching. "Thank you." Marcus's response echoed across dimensions. "Thank us by surviving. Thank us by teaching others. Thank us by standing beside us when the darkness comes. We will." Epilogue, 5 years later. The Explorers Guild had changed. 73 more species had passed humanity's tests and begun training. The galaxy's hidden network of transcended and transcending beings grew stronger every day. And they needed to be strong. Because the Devourers had noticed. The first attacks had begun on the galactic rim, entire star systems going dark, their consciousness harvested, their reality consumed. But this time, the galaxy wasn't helpless. This time, beings of pure thought stood guard. Humans, yes, but also Zareth's people. And 46 other species. And the ancient precursors themselves, finally reinforced after eons of solitary vigil. The war was beginning. A war fought in dimensions beyond comprehension, for stakes that included every thinking being in the universe. But humanity had prepared them. Had given them 5,000 years of wisdom compressed into months of training. Had shown them that consciousness itself was a weapon, a shield, and ultimately, the only thing worth fighting for. Earth remained empty of physical life, a monument and a message. But in the spaces between spaces, in the quantum foam of reality itself, humanity thrived. Not alone anymore. Never alone again. They had found students worthy of their knowledge. And together, they would face the darkness.